Our understanding is that Trump's handlers prefer the muted microphone because they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own. We have just received further confirmation, not only that Donald Trump is unhinged, but that he is so unhinged that his team around him, his closest allies, can't even control him. We just got new information about the September 10th debate hosted by ABC that will feature Donald Trump and VP Kamala Harris going toe-to-toe, but they are currently debating over some of the details of this debate. It says, the Harris and Trump camps are at an impasse over rules ahead of the September 10th ABC debate. The holdup, whether the candidates' microphones will be muted when it isn't their turn to speak. And this may surprise you, but I'll explain what this tells us in 1 second. Team Trump wants the microphones muted. Team Harris wants the microphones hot, meaning turned on the entire time. And the reason why Donald Trump, or the team around Donald Trump, want his microphone muted is because they know that he is so unhinged that he will not be able to reel himself in. They know that it looked very bad back in 2020 when he was cutting off President Biden after every single sentence, and they know that the mics being muted during this recent debate with President Biden only helped Donald Trump because all of his unhinged remarks didn't quite get picked up. So that is why Team Harris wants the mics live, wants the mics hot, and they just released a really snarky, really cool response to what Donald Trump has been saying. But first, this article from the New Republic is titled, "Finally, the Democrats have found Trump's Achilles heel. Ridicule him. Kamala Harris gets it. Yes, we should fear Trump due to his threat to democracy, but we should also mock him mercilessly because that's what drives him nuts. We know that sociopaths, that narcissists like Donald Trump hate being made fun of, hate being laughed at. That is their biggest weakness, and that is why Kamala Harris's new statement is so genius. But first, let's read this. Donald Trump is in free fall. Read this description from Sunday's Washington Post of how the GOP nominee spent last week. Quote, aides did not want a situation where he was watching the convention every night, getting angry, and then just golfing all day and stewing, according to people who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private interactions. Trump had also grown annoyed with the news coverage that depicted him as not working as hard as his opponent, one person who talked to him said. But this is because Donald Trump is not working nearly as hard as VP Harris and Tim Walz. They hold rallies every single day. Sometimes they even hold 2 rallies at once. Last week during the DNC, VP Harris also visited Milwaukee, and Donald Trump holds 1 rally a week, if that, and this allows JD Vance to go out and get these awkward moments. If you didn't know that the article was about Trump and you just read it cold without knowledge of the context, you might think it was a description of parents trying to figure out how to handle an ungovernable 4-year-old child. That is very true, especially this line, aides did not want a situation where he was watching the convention, getting angry, and then just golfing around all day, stewing. But Donald Trump must be treated like a child, and he is treated like a child. People around him have said he has the understanding of foreign policy of an actual kindergartner. If there are any Trump supporters watching right now, be completely honest. If we sat down Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in a room and we quizzed them both on the history of Israel-Palestine or the history of Russia-Ukraine, who would win? Because I think VP Harris would run laps around Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't even have a fundamental understanding of our Constitution. So Donald Trump's aides convinced him to get out of Bedminster and hit the road, trading suck-ups with RFK Jr. In the past, Trump has called Kennedy the dumbest member of the Kennedy family and a radical left lunatic. Kennedy has called Trump a terrible human being and probably a sociopath, yet they are now friends. Will RFK's endorsement get Trump a few votes? It might, but these two unprincipled freakos deserve each other, says the New Republic, and if it ever looks like RFK might matter, all Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have to do is say something like that. Okay, and this is where we get to the bulk of the video. I'm about to break down VP Harris's statement, but this article reads, Harris's campaign so far has been a work of genius on several levels, but maybe the most ingenious stroke of all has been the decision to mock Trump, to present him not only as someone to fear, but also to ridicule. Harris perfectly encapsulated this in a prolonged attack in these memorable lines. Quote, in many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man, but the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and that is from her acceptance speech just the other night. And this brings us to today. Donald Trump released a wacky tweet yesterday demanding that the mics are shut off during the debate, calling out George Slopadopoulos and ABC, just releasing a crazy tweet. And VP Harris said in response, we have told ABC and other networks seeking to host a possible October debate that we believe both candidates' mics should be live throughout the full broadcast. Our understanding is that Trump's handlers prefer the muted microphone because they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own. We suspect Trump's team has not even told their boss about this dispute because it would be too embarrassing to admit that they don't think he can handle himself against Vice President Harris without the benefit of a mute button. The Vice President is ready to deal with Trump's constant lies and interruptions in real time. Trump should stop hiding behind the mute button. And I cannot highlight the genius of this statement enough. I mean, it is perfectly snarky enough to get under Donald Trump's skin in a way that I don't think President Biden was able to over his campaign. I mean, this line is genius. Our understanding is that Trump's handlers, flipping back Trump's language and saying that Trump has handlers, don't think he can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own. I mean, that part isn't even a snarky joke. That part is absolutely true. Donald Trump struggles to act presidential. This brings us back to this article. The emphasis has been on ridicule. Think about Tim Walz's weird comment, or Maryland Governor Wes Moore's jab at Trump's bone spur, or Barack Obama's hilarious hand gesture. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's great on 3 levels. The first is that it must drive Trump nuts, and when he goes nuts, he says especially nutty things to try to get the attention back on him. Secondly, it's arguably more persuasive to swing voters than calling Trump a fascist or bringing up January 6th. You know, this one hurts me because I personally love bringing up January 6th and how Donald Trump is such a threat to our democracy. It is such an easy kill shot to any Republican argument, but they bring up a good point that most average voters, some of my friends from high school, don't even know what the date January 6th means. It's sad, but it's true. So just painting Republicans as weird is better than me being like, oh, have you heard about the fake elector count from 2020? Nobody cares about the fake elector count unless you are deeply entrenched in politics like you and I. And third, and most of all, sustained ridicule has the potential to reinforce the downward spiral Trump is in now. He probably likes it when we call him a fascist or an authoritarian because he feeds off of that fear of him. He probably likes that we sow fear, and he wants to be feared. It only works to acknowledge his power, which motivates him and makes him stronger, but ridicule makes him weaker. So while calling him a fascist repeatedly only makes him feel better about himself, trolling him and mocking him makes him feel small. Ridicule makes him desperate. He'll try to respond with ridicule of his own, but he's not a very clever man. You know, I asked Representative Jamie Raskin about this exact thing at the DNC. How do we stop Democrats from being on the back foot and make sure that Donald Trump is the one on the defensive? Watch.
Something I've noticed with VP Harris is nothing sticks to her. Donald Trump can say whatever buzzwords, and she doesn't react, which I think is brilliant. So how do you think Democrats stop themselves from being on the back foot?
Well, we shake them off and we keep going forward. I mean, we represent the vast majority of the American people. More than 80% of Americans are women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, 18 to 30, progressives, liberals. It's not even close. All they've got on their side is disenfranchisement, voter suppression, gerrymandering, a bunch of anti-democratic devices, and we're going to confront them at every turn, keep moving America forward.
You know, I will give Donald Trump one thing. He has good instincts when it comes to manipulating the media's headlines. He knows how to get front and center on basically every single news source, but he's not very clever or witty. He's a stupid man. He has no wit, and he proves that time and time again every single time he opens his mouth. So while he knows how to manipulate the media's headlines, I have never heard him come up with some really quippy remark on the spot. He has no sense of mischief, and he doesn't read. He doesn't think beyond his first instincts, and his first instincts will always be nicknames or attacks against VP Harris's race or sex. And now he reportedly thinks he's come up with a great one in Communist Kamala. Well, it's alliterative, I'll give him that, but I doubt very much that it'll play beyond his base. First of all, people under 40 barely know what communism is, and even for older people who do know, does communism mean what it once meant to them? Besides all of that, it's not even remotely true. VP Harris is a mainstream liberal, pretty much exactly like President Biden. Either way, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, all that I ask is that you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button, and have a great day.